Before gods ruled Olympus, before humans walked the earth, the universe was controlled by the Titans. Ancient primordial beings of immense power who had overthrown their own father to take control. Their king was Kronos, and he ruled through fear, paranoia, and absolute tyrannical authority over everything that existed in the cosmos. Kronos had been warned by prophecy that one of his own children would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown his father. So every time his wife Rhea gave birth, Kronos took the newborn infant and swallowed it whole, imprisoning his own children alive inside his body where they could never challenge his rule. But Rhea saved one child. She hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a stone wrapped in cloth instead. He swallowed it without checking. Zeus grew up in secret, trained in hidden caves, waiting for the moment he would fulfill the prophecy and start the war that would decide who ruled the universe forever. The Titans had ruled for eons. Kronos and his siblings had defeated their father Uranus. The sky itself made flesh in the first great cosmic war. They divided the universe among themselves and established their reign over all creation, believing nothing could ever challenge their primordial power. Kronos married his sister Rhea, as was the way of primordial beings. She gave birth to powerful children who inherited divine power from both parents. But Kronos remembered the prophecy. He remembered how he had overthrown his own father. He would not make the same mistake and allow his children to grow strong enough to challenge him. When Rhea gave birth to their first child, a daughter named Hestia, Kronos took the newborn and swallowed her whole. Hestia remained alive inside his body, trapped in darkness, unable to grow or escape. Rhea screamed and begged, but Kronos would not listen. The prophecy had to be prevented at any cost to his authority. 5 times this horror repeated. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. 5 children born and immediately swallowed. 5 divine beings imprisoned inside their father's body, conscious and aware but powerless. Rhea's grief and rage grew with each child she lost. She began planning her revenge against her husband. When Rhea became pregnant with her 6th child, she knew she could not let Kronos take this one. She fled to the island of Crete in secret and gave birth to Zeus in a hidden cave. She wrapped a large stone in baby clothes and returned to Kronos, presenting it as their newborn son. Kronos, paranoid and hasty, swallowed the stone without examining it closely. He believed he had prevented the prophecy once again. Meanwhile, baby Zeus was being raised in the cave by nymphs and fed on divine honey and the milk of a magic goat. He grew faster than mortal children, divine power manifesting early. Zeus was trained by the best warriors among the nature spirits. He learned to fight, to lead, to inspire loyalty. He learned strategy and tactics. He was told from childhood about his imprisoned siblings, about his father's tyranny, about his destiny to overthrow the king of the Titans and free his family from their eternal prison. When Zeus reached young adulthood, his divine power fully manifested. Lightning obeyed his command. Thunder announced his arrival. He had the natural authority of a born leader that made others want to follow him into battle. He was ready to fulfill his destiny and challenge the most powerful being in the universe. Zeus needed allies. He approached Metis, a Titaness daughter of Ocean, who possessed great wisdom and knowledge of magic. She had no love for Kronos' tyranny and agreed to help Zeus. She gave him a potion that would make Kronos vomit up everything he had ever swallowed, including the 5 imprisoned gods. Zeus infiltrated Kronos' palace, disguised as a cupbearer. He served Kronos wine mixed with Metis' potion. Kronos drank deeply, suspecting nothing. The potion took effect immediately. Kronos began vomiting uncontrollably. First came the stone that Rhea had substituted for baby Zeus. Then came the gods, one by one, fully grown. Poseidon emerged first, god of the seas, fully grown and armed with divine power and rage at his imprisonment. Then came Hades, dark and terrible, lord of the underworld and death. Hera followed, queen and protector. Demeter, goddess of harvest and nature's fury. Finally, Hestia, firstborn and goddess of the hearth and home. 5 gods stood free for the first time in their existence. They had been conscious inside Kronos' body for eons, aware but powerless, listening to the world outside, waiting. Their rage was infinite. Their power was immense. Their loyalty to Zeus, who had freed them, was absolute. The war for the universe had begun. Kronos rallied the Titans immediately. His brothers and sisters, the ancient primordial beings who had ruled since the beginning. Atlas, who held up the sky. Prometheus, who could see the future. Hyperion, Oceanus, Iapetus, Themis. The most powerful beings in existence gathered for war against these 6 young gods who dared challenge their rule. Zeus led his siblings to Mount Olympus, the highest peak touching the sky itself. They fortified it as their stronghold and base of operations. From here, they would fight the war to control the cosmos. The mountain itself seemed to recognize their divine right and welcome them as its rightful rulers. The war that followed would rage for 10 full years. 10 years of reality-shaking combat between primordial titans and divine gods. Mountains were thrown as weapons. Seas boiled and froze in moments. The sky split with lightning. The earth cracked and reformed. Mortal creatures hid in terror as their world became a battlefield. The Titans had size and ancient primordial power on their side. They had ruled since creation itself. But the gods had something else. They had been born of both Titan and divine essence. They combined primordial power with new divine abilities that even the Titans had never possessed before. Zeus wielded lightning as a weapon, bolts that could shatter mountains and burn Titans. Poseidon commanded all water in the world, creating tsunamis and whirlpools that swallowed armies. Hades could kill with a touch and command the spirits of everything that had ever died. The gods were not just powerful, they were innovative in ways the ancient Titans could not match. But for 10 years, neither side could gain decisive advantage. The Titans were too powerful to defeat easily. The gods were too quick and clever to be overwhelmed. The war reached a stalemate, with the universe hanging in the balance, being destroyed and remade daily by their cosmic conflict that reshaped all of reality. Zeus knew they needed something more to tip the balance. He remembered stories told to him in his cave about prisoners locked in Tartarus, the deepest part of the underworld. Prisoners that even Kronos feared. Monsters so powerful that Kronos' father Uranus had imprisoned them and Kronos had kept them locked away. Zeus descended into Tartarus itself, into the deepest darkness where the most terrible beings were imprisoned. He found the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants who were master smiths and forgers. And he found the Hecaton Shire's 100-handed giants of incomprehensible power, all imprisoned by Uranus and kept locked by Kronos out of fear. Zeus offered them freedom and alliance. He promised they would never be imprisoned again if they fought for the gods against the Titans. The Cyclopes and Hecaton Shires, who had been locked in darkness for eons, agreed immediately. They had been waiting for someone brave enough to free them and give them revenge. The Cyclopes forged weapons of unimaginable power for the gods. For Zeus, the master bolt of lightning that could shatter anything. For Poseidon, the trident that could command all oceans and shake the earth itself. For Hades, the helm of invisibility that made him lord of shadows and death. These weapons changed everything. The Hecaton Shires were unleashed on the battlefield. Each giant had 100 hands that could throw massive boulders simultaneously. They could throw mountains. They could reshape landscape with their assault. The Titans, who had seemed unstoppable, finally faced beings who could match their primordial power through sheer overwhelming force. The final battle shook the foundations of existence itself. Zeus led the charge from Olympus with lightning tearing the sky. Poseidon raised tsunamis that swallowed continents. Hades opened the earth to swallow Titans into the underworld. The Cyclopes and Hecatonchires fought with weapons and strength that matched anything the Titans could summon. Kronos and Zeus faced each other in single combat, while armies of gods and Titans waged war around them. Father against son, king against challenger, the prophecy fulfilling itself. Kronos wielded his scythe that had cut apart the primordial sky. Zeus wielded lightning forged in the depths of the underworld. Their battle alone threatened to unmake reality. Zeus was faster, younger, fighting with the fury of someone who had trained his entire life for this moment. Kronos was ancient, powerful, fighting with the desperation of someone who knew the prophecy was coming true and could not stop it. Lightning against time, innovation against experience, new divine power against primordial ancient strength. Zeus struck the decisive blow. His master bolt of lightning, forged by the Cyclopes with power drawn from the cosmos itself, struck Kronos directly. The king of the Titans fell. The ruler of the universe for eons was defeated by his youngest son, whom he had tried to prevent from ever being born. With their king fallen, the remaining Titans broke. Some fled, some surrendered. Some fought to the last and were cast down into Tartarus. Atlas was condemned to hold up the sky forever as punishment. Prometheus, who had sided with Zeus, was honored. The war ended after 10 years of reality-shattering combat. The gods stood victorious on Olympus. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades divided the cosmos among themselves. Zeus claimed the sky and became king of the gods. Poseidon took the seas. Hades accepted the underworld. Hera, Demeter, and Hestia took their places as the great goddesses. The age of gods had begun. Kronos and the defeated Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus, the deepest pit of the underworld, locked behind gates of bronze, guarded by the Hecatonchires. There they would remain for eternity, overthrown just as they had overthrown their father. The prophecy fulfilled exactly as it had been foretold since before time itself began. The Cyclopes became honored craftsmen on Olympus, forging weapons and armor for the gods. The Hecatonchires remained as eternal guards of Tartarus, ensuring no Titan could ever escape. Zeus's allies were rewarded. His enemies were punished. The new order of the universe had been established through 10 years of cosmic warfare. Zeus took his throne on Olympus and became the king of gods and men. He was not a perfect ruler. He would be flawed, make mistakes, be driven by impulses and desires. But he was not a tyrant who swallowed his children out of paranoia. He allowed his own children to grow powerful, trusting in his ability to lead rather than rule through fear. The war between gods and Titans became the foundation myth of divine power. Every generation of gods had overthrown their fathers. First Kronos overthrew Uranus. Then Zeus overthrew Kronos. But Zeus ended the cycle by being a different kind of king, one who ruled through power and leadership rather than fear and imprisonment. This is how gods became the rulers of the universe. Not through peaceful transition, but through 10 years of reality-shattering warfare. Not through divine right, but through strength, strategy, and the courage to challenge those who claimed power could never be challenged. Zeus and his siblings earned their rule through blood and lightning, and the courage to fight for freedom. The Titans who had ruled since creation were cast down into eternal darkness. The gods who had been swallowed and imprisoned took their place as the new rulers of all existence. The universe was remade. The age of Titans ended. The age of gods began. And it all started because a mother loved her child enough to hide him and gave him the chance to fulfill his destiny. The Titanomachy, as the war was called, established the divine order that would rule for millennia. Zeus on his throne wielding lightning, Poseidon in his underwater palace commanding the seas, Hades in the underworld ruling over death itself, the 12 Olympians in their places, and beneath them all, locked in Tartarus, the fallen Titans serving as eternal reminder that no rule lasts forever. Mount Olympus stands as the seat of divine power. The gods rule from here, flawed but powerful, capable of both great good and terrible cruelty. They earned their thrones through warfare that reshaped reality. They maintain their power through strength and leadership. They are the gods because they fought the war that decided who would control the universe forever. This story was created combining ancient Greek source texts including Hesiod's Theogony with epic Marvel-style visual production. For more Greek mythology exploring the wars and conflicts that shaped the divine order, check the description below. The Age of Gods began in blood and lightning and has ruled ever since.